Sorry about that. I was playing Jamiroquai. That's why I kept you waiting. Kept you guys waiting. I was busy listening to Jamiroquai and setting up the show, of course. All right, listen, a lot to get through to. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Let me start off by saying, I want to start off by saying a real big thank you to all of the people that have been sharing these videos, that have been spreading the word out there, that Ultra Tech is alive and breathing for now. We don't know for how much longer. I'm on life support. Do you know what I mean? I'm on life support. I might as well be in the, I'm in the social media ICU. Yeah, put it out. I'm in the social media intensive care unit. Do you know what I mean? There ain't long to go for me, but let's just enjoy it while we can. This is full Toby Players is in here, aka Bernard Matthews. What's he saying? Let me get his comment up. Got the NASA jumpsuit on again, I see. This is it. This is the official Ultra Tech kit. This is what you'll see, man. This is the official Ultra Tech kit. Do you know what I mean? NASA? Do you know what I mean? Nigger Association Space Agency. That's how we roll, innit? What do you know about black people going into space, Toby Players? You don't know nothing about black people going into space, Toby Players. That's what the NSA, NASA's for, obviously. We're rocking that American flag. Gotta rock the American flag, of course. And of course, we've got to ride the GIMP mask as well, because we know that it's going to be from Dean White. So you know what I'm saying? We've got to have that GIMP mask on. Right. How are we rocking with this? First and foremost, as I was saying, I wanted to say a big thank you to everybody out here who's been getting the word out there, letting people know Ultra Tech's still around. I appreciate it. If you do see people in comment sections that are out and about, that you know you've seen on the show, but they might not necessarily know about this channel, let them know. Let them know, yeah? That'd be fantastic. Right. Let's get cracking, yeah? Just going to wait for a few more people to come in, but while we do that, I just want to say this. Big shout out to my brother, Joe Fournier, yeah? I love this man. Big shout out to Joe Fournier, who's getting in the ring for the biggest fight of his career against his best friend, David Haye. David Haye and Joe Fournier, let me tell you, there's a reason why Joe Fournier is a multi-millionaire / billionaire, whatever he is. Joe Fournier is a straight 100% certified moneymaker, yeah? And so is David Haye. And the two of them are ripping off the public once again, yeah? By getting in the ring and pretending it's going to be a legit fight when they're best friends. As far as I'm aware, the outcome is probably already decided. Do you know what I mean? Knowing these two, but it is what it is. But let me tell you, I love Joe Fournier. He's one of my favorite guys of all time. And let me just remind you, for those of you who missed it, for those of you who've never seen the show before, let me just pay tribute to Joe Fournier and David Haye and their big mega fight tonight, yeah, by showing you, this is still to this day the greatest call out of all time. Joe Fournier calling out Callum Smith, yeah, for the unified light heavyweight or unified super middleweight championship of the world. You will never see a better call out of a fighter in your life.
So, just flying on the jet to my house in Miami, and I just burned more fuel than Callum Smith's last purse. Callum, listen, you're an amazing fighter. I've got a lot of respect for you and your family. The things you do for charity are brilliant. No knocking you, much respect. But in reality, I'd knock you out. And I'm the kind of guy that puts my money where my mouth is, right? Hence where I am. So why don't we do a deal? I'll buy you a plane like this. Taylor, if I bought my mate Callum this plane, would you work for him too, or you just only stay working with me?
Just you.
Just me.
Just you.
Well, I can't give you Taylor, Callum, but I'll do my best. Or a house in Liverpool for you and all your family. Let me know. I'm on the phone. Call Eddie. Call David. Let's do this.
Oh my gosh. Let me tell you, you have my permission, yeah, to go out, yeah? I don't know what they're charging on Chiller tonight, yeah, for this on pay-per-view, but you have the Ultra Tech seal of approval to go out, yeah, and spend your life savings on David Haye versus Joe Fournier. I'm sorry, but Joe Fournier deserves it, man. Joe Fournier deserves it. The man deserves an MBE, in my opinion. The greatest promo I've ever seen anybody cut, yeah, on a fighter in my entire... It just had a bit of everything. It had a bit of sex trafficking in there. You know, you got your bit of sex trafficking in there with Joe Fournier offering up, the sexual slavery of unsuspecting flight attendants. He offered to buy Callum Smith a house. I mean, he just had a bit of everything, didn't he? Yeah, Shevin. That's the bit that gets me. Joe Fournier offering up unsuspecting flight attendants into sexual slavery in Merseyside. Yeah. Joe Fournier is the fucking man. Never ever forget that. Okay. And of course, as Bernard says here, Donald Trump commenting on the event as well. So, you know, always worth a listen. All right, let's get on to the meat of the show. I'll try not to make this too long. One sec. Let's go to Anthony Joshua, this week's BS interview with everybody's favorite interviewer, Coogs. I'm not going to play the interview because I don't want to get done for copyright, but I'm just going to pause it at a spot. Let me tell you something right now, and I'm going to be 100% honest about this interview right now, right? This interview proved once and for all, right, that Coogan Cassius, although he does have his moments, is the most overrated interviewer possibly in the history of UK boxing. I mean, this guy really shouldn't be in a job. Let me tell you about Coogan Cassius' interview skills, right? This video is 20 minutes and 47 seconds long, right? Anthony Joshua is 14 days away from defending the unified heavyweight championship of the world against Alexander Usyk, a man who in this interview, Anthony Joshua says is his second best opponent on paper, right? That's what Anthony Joshua says. He says, other than Klitschko, Usyk is the best opponent on paper that he has ever fought, right? In 20 minutes and 47 seconds, Coogan Cassius pretty much asked zero questions about Alexander Usyk, how Anthony Joshua was going to prepare for Alexander Usyk, the kind of strategies that Anthony Joshua was going to put in place for the Alexander Usyk fight, the kind of fight footage that he was watching in preparation. We got absolutely no information. It was a bizarre interview, and it just shows you, right? If you ever watch an interview, if you ever want to know why IFLTV is an absolute fucking clown show from top to bottom, right? IFLTV is a clown show for clowns, right? Zero value in terms of understanding the sport of boxing, zero value in terms of getting any insight into the sport of boxing. This interview is just exhibit A, your honor. I mean, like I said, it's bizarre. The man is 14 days away from fight. You're going to have the unified heavyweight champion of the world against the former undisputed cruiserweight champion of the world. In 20 minutes, he asked pretty much nothing about Alexander Usyk. But you know who he did ask about? He managed to find the time to ask Anthony Joshua what he thought about Jake Paul. Coogan Cassius, right? I know you won't be listening anymore, Coogs, because this channel has gone down the dogs. Obviously, been zapped. We've gone from 7,000 plus subscribers to 0, right? But I'll tell you this now, Coogan. You need to retire. I want to say this now. Coogan Cassius needs to do the right thing and hang up the microphone because he has absolutely had it, man. I mean, the guy's an embarrassment, you know? This channel's got 681,000 subscribers. You turn up for an interview with Anthony Joshua, right? The man's in the middle of a training camp for one of the biggest fights of his career, and you're asking him questions about Jake fucking Paul and what Tyson Fury said on his interview with Gary Neville. It's just embarrassing, absolutely embarrassing from Coogan Cassius, and a great opportunity missed, not only for him, but for the quote unquote the fans as well. You know. For the fans as well. The fans got no insight. We got no insight into how Anthony Joshua was training. We got no insight into Anthony Joshua's mindset for the fight. We got no insight into why Anthony Joshua was, lost so much weight. What kind of, we got no insight. Coogan had 20 minutes. And the worst thing is, I think this idiot actually wrote this shit down. So this dude sat there, right, with a pen and a paper. And let's be honest, Coogan Cassius doesn't use one of these. Yeah? Coogan Cassius ain't using one of these. You know, Coogan Cassius is actually using one of these. That's how Coogan Cassius is. Coogan Cassius is actually using a pen and a fucking paper, yeah? He probably sat down and wrote those bullshit questions down. I went into an interview with Anthony Joshua and legitimately was asking him shit about what he feels about Jake Paul. Anyway, I thought the whole thing was fucking embarrassing. An embarrassment for boxing. And just shows you, let me just quickly say, this whole channel is about the decline of UK boxing. That's why I came back. This whole channel is going to show you the decline of British boxing, right? The decline of British boxing. Think about where British boxing was in 2015, 2016, 2017, and think about where British boxing is now. And not only are the fights declining, but the level of journalism is hitting rock bottom. It's hitting rock bottom. And Coogan Cassius, let me tell you, worst interview of the year. That was a fucking embarrassment. Coogan, if you're watching, that's a fucking embarrassment, man. That's an absolute fucking embarrassment. Now, let's move on to what Anthony Joshua actually said in this interview. This is the point where I'm going to upset the fanboys. So if you're an Anthony Joshua fanboy, if you're one of those people, you know, I'm on thin ice at the minute, as it is with YouTube, so I'm not going to get up the picture of the black dildo. You guys will remember, yeah, the black dildo meme that we used to use for the Anthony Joshua fanboys. But for those Anthony Joshua lovers, look, yeah, this might be the time for you to tune out ever so slightly, because I will be hurting some feelings, right, in the next 15 to 20 minutes, right? But let me tell you this now. It's important that we hold Anthony Joshua to account, because I've made notes of some of the things that Anthony Joshua said here, right? And some of the things that Anthony Joshua's coming out with in this interview don't make no sense. Let's just go through the comments. Joe's saying, yeah, Tampax talk, innit? Yeah, that's right, innit? You know, these AJ fans love that Tampax talk, innit? Let me get that. Let me get some of that Tampax. I think Mrs. Ultra might have some Tampax in the bathroom. I might have to go get it out. You know, these AJ fans, I love this Tampax talk. Dave Lane says, Coogan's bought subscribers. Definitely, the numbers don't add up. A few people have accused IFLTV of buying subscribers. The numbers definitely don't match the subscriber count. There's no question about it. And we'll go through some of these. M.A. Khan says, Gary Neville is better than Coogan at interviewing. 100%. Do you know how embarrassing that is? Coogan's making money out of this. He's making money out of this. He's actually legitimately asked, sat down for 20 minutes with the unified champion of the fucking world. He has not asked him about his opponent. He's hardly asked him any questions about his opponent, but he's found the time to ask him about Jake Paul. Cougs needs to call it a day. So anyway, let's crack on with this. Anthony Joshua was yapping on about resume again, right? So basically, this whole interview was a bunch of thinly failed shots at Tyson Fury, basically. A lot of talk about resume. I'm a throwback fighter. We'll get onto all of this in it. I'm a throwback fighter. I don't really like getting involved in Twitter beef. I just like settling in the ring and fighting people and all this other kind of stuff he was coming out with, which, again, on the surface, yeah, sounds great. But when you pick it apart, like how we're going to pick it apart in a minute, what you realize is that, you know, Anthony Joshua, unfortunately, what he says and what he does doesn't match up whatsoever. So let's talk about Anthony Joshua's resume. He talks about his resume. He says, Cougs, do you think I've got a good resume? Here's my question about Anthony Joshua's resume. I'm going to do this once again. And I've done this before. I apologize to people who have seen this gimmick before. There are a few people who have never seen this show before, so I'm just going to quickly show them. But let me just explain to you quickly, right, my response to Anthony Joshua asking Coogan Cassius, what do you think about my resume? Is it a good resume? Are you impressed, etc., right? Here's my number one problem with this, right? My number one problem with Anthony Joshua's resume is the following, right? This whole gimmick about resume and title defenses. Let me just tell you how it is. 15, 20 years from now, right? Nobody is going to be looking and going, do you remember when Anthony Joshua fought Dominic Breazeale? Do you remember when Anthony Joshua defended his titles against Eric Molina? Do you remember when Anthony Joshua defended his titles against Carlos Takam? Do you remember when Anthony Joshua beat Charles Martin for the world title? You have to understand that. Now, Anthony Joshua has got a point about resume and title defenses, but what he has to understand and what a journalist has to actually put to Anthony Joshua, which takes a lot of balls because the guy is 6'6", you know, he's built like a fucking brick shithouse. You know, he would destroy me, he would destroy you, he'd destroy anybody. So it takes a lot of heart, yeah, to bring this up to Anthony Joshua in an interview, because Anthony Joshua is really used to the scripted questions, isn't he? He's a guy that really only deals in scripted questions, right? Scripted questions. But somebody sometime has got to put to him that, yes, Anthony, you've fought, you know, quality opponents. Nobody can question the quality of opponents on your resume. But here's the problem, Anthony, right? The reason why people are, quote unquote, doubting your legacy, right? The reason why people are doubting your legacies, the reason why is because you haven't fought any killers. There's no, other than a 41-year-old Vladimir Klitschko, there's no killers on your resume. And the other thing I was going to say, and I'm going to say right now, is Tyson Fury hasn't made a defense of the world title, right? And you can criticize Tyson Fury for that. But the one thing I will never criticize Tyson Fury for is he's been in big fights, in 50-50 fights that people care about. Now, Anthony Joshua said in the interview, he said, Matchroom have done a good job with me and Sky have done a good job with me. This is what interviewers should be asking Anthony Joshua. I'm going to break it down for you in 2 seconds why Anthony Joshua is absolutely incorrect in what he's saying, right? Let me get up Tyson Fury's resume. I should have been prepared for this, but I'm going to explain this to you very, very quickly to show you why Matchroom have not handled Anthony Joshua very well, right? Not for the last couple of years, right? You have to understand this, right? Tyson Fury, right? Let me zoom in on this for you, right? Tyson Fury. Between 2015 in his fight against Vladimir Klitschko and 2018, he had 2 fights in 3 years, right? Look at this gap. Look at this massive gap on Tyson Fury's CV. From 2015 to 2018, right? The division was absolutely wide open for Anthony Joshua, right? Let's have a look at who Anthony Joshua fought between 2015 and 2018. Division was wide open, right? Now, since Tyson Fury fought Vladimir Klitschko, Anthony Joshua fought the following. He fought Dillian Whyte for the British title. Fair enough. You give him props for that. He then fought Charles Martin for an IBF. He then fought Dominic Breazeale. He then fought Eric Molina. He then fought Vladimir Klitschko. He says this is the best victory of his career. I'm fine with that. You know my opinion about Vladimir being 41 years old, hadn't boxed in 18 months, and previously was coming off a loss, but we can give Anthony Joshua credit for that. So we give Anthony Joshua credit for Klitschko. He then fought Carlos Takam, and then he fought Joseph Parker. So here's my point to you, right? And someone needs to raise this every time Anthony Joshua talks about resume and title defenses. The bottom line of it is his biggest rival was out of action for nearly 3 years. His biggest rival was out of action for 3 fucking years. And in those 3 years, right, Anthony Joshua, for whatever reason, I'm not saying it's all his fault. I'm sure a lot of it's the fault of Deontay Wilder and other people. But in those 3 years, Anthony Joshua did not fight the Ring magazine, the guy, the next guy in the division, did he? He didn't fight the guy who was Wilder. He didn't fight the guy, did he? He didn't fight the next undefeated guy. In the 3 years, right, since his rival was out of boxing, remember, his biggest rival in the sport was out of boxing for 3 years, weighed 400 pounds, and had failed a drugs test. Anthony Joshua failed really, to A, become undisputed, B, to become Ring Magazine champion, right? And C, to take the division over in any kind of meaningful way. In fact, he left the door wide open for a 400-pound man coming back off a cocaine addiction, alcoholism, and suicide attempts on his own life. In the space of 2 years, that man was able to come back into the sport and completely take over the division again. What does that tell you about A, Anthony Joshua's resume, and B, the way Anthony Joshua's been managed? Just think of the concept of that. Your biggest rival is out of the division for 2 to 3 years and looks like he's never, ever going to box again. And Anthony Joshua failed to capitalize on that. That's not all his fault. Some of that's the fault of Deontay Wilder. Some of that's the fault, a lot of it's the fault of Matchroom Boxing. Some of it's the fault of Sky, and etc., etc. But he completely failed to capitalize on that. So somebody, when he keeps rambling on about his resume and title defenses, somebody needs to bring this up to him and say, yes, but the bottom line is, Anthony, you had 3 years with your biggest rival, right, out of the division. 3 years. And who did you fight in those 3 years? You fought fucking Dominic Breazeale, Eric Molina, Carlos Takam, Joseph Parker, Alexander Povetkin, and a 41-year-old Vladimir Klitschko. Someone needs to be honest and ask him, do you think now, looking back on it, you made the most of 2 to 3 years of your biggest rival being out of the division? Because he had a clear path. Everything was there for him. His biggest rival was stripped, failed a drugs test, 400 pounds. And he still couldn't clean out the division. So the question marks have to be asked about that. And like I said, it's not hating on Anthony Joshua, right? You know, I think when you look at the depth of his resume, yeah, it's better than Tyson Fury's. Absolutely. I've never disputed that. But the reason why, all this crap about title defenses, people need to be honest and just tell him, look, Anthony, with all due respect, you've got good names on your resume, but nobody in 10 years' time is going to be talking about your fights against Takam, Molina, Brazil, Charles Martin, Joseph Parker. Do you think in 10 years' time, people are going to be talking about, can you remember that time that Anthony Joshua fought Joseph Parker? The fight was a fucking stinker. And Joseph Parker really isn't an elite level heavyweight. So I'm just being honest and saying, look, with Tyson Fury, the advantage of him is, yes, he hasn't made many title defenses, etc., etc. Yes, his resume doesn't have the depth that Anthony Joshua's has. But when you look back at Tyson Fury, people still talk about Fury and Klitschko in Dusseldorf. It's been like how many years? 6, 7 years. People still talk about that fight till this day. People still talk about Fury and Wilder 1 till this. People still talk about, did the referee make a mistake? Did the referee give Fury too much time? Was Fury really knocked out? Did he really make the 10 count? Who really won the fight? Was that a terrible decision? The second fight between Wilder and Fury, was there illegal hand wraps? Was there illegal hand wraps? Was Wilder drugged before the fight? Was there a conspiracy? Regardless of what me and you think about it, people are still talking about Fury's biggest fights until this day. But people don't really feel that. I mean, I would say other than a Klitschko fight, which is a great fight, other than a Klitschko fight, which one of Anthony Joshua's fights, other than a Klitschko fight, do people really still talk about till this day? And let me ask you one more question before we move on. People talk about resume, and defenses. In these fights that we've listed now, how many of these fights, right, since 2015, was Anthony Joshua the underdog? Has he ever been the underdog in any of these fights? Let's go through these fights one more time. Was he the underdog to beat Dillian Whyte when they fought for the British title? No, he wasn't. He was the overwhelming favourite to beat Dillian Whyte at that time when they fought for the British title. Was Anthony Joshua the favourite or the underdog to lose to Charles Martin? As far as I remember, Anthony Joshua was never an underdog, to get beat by Charles Martin. Was Anthony Joshua ever an underdog or a 50-50 to beat to lose to Dominic Brazil? Did anybody ever think that Eric Molina could beat Anthony Joshua? Vladimir Klitschko is the closest thing to a 50-50 fight he'd been in that period, in that little 2015 to 2018 period. The closest thing to a 50-50 fight, a pick'em fight he'd been in, was this fight with Vladimir Klitschko. Carlos Takam. Was that a 50-50 fight? Did anybody think, oh, I wonder who's going to win this? Was that a thriller? Was Anthony Joshua versus Joseph Parker a thriller? You have to be honest about this stuff. Just be honest about this stuff. None of these fights are really 50-50s, are they? He's the overwhelming favourite in pretty much all of those fights. And that's what I'm saying. With Fury, again, like him, hate him, call him a drug cheat, hasn't defended his belts. Fury versus Wilder 1, Fury was the underdog. Fury versus Wilder 2, Fury was the underdog. Fury versus Klitschko, Fury was the underdog. So he was the underdog in all 3 fights, and he fought all 3 fights away from home. And he fought all 3 fights against the guy who was considered the next best guy in the division. Am I lying about that? When Fury fought Wilder, was he not considered the next best guy in the division? He fought the next guy, right? He fought the guy. So I'm just saying. I'm just being real with it, I'm just saying. Anthony Joshua makes some great points. Tyson Fury, we know about Tyson Fury. He makes it up as he goes along. Anthony Joshua's got the more in-depth resume. Anthony Joshua's fought some good names. He's fought very, very solid competition. But my point is, in interviews in the future, the next time he comes up with this fucking resume and title defenses nonsense, right? People need to bring this up, right? People need to ask him, and people need to ask Eddie Hearn. We've seen Eddie Hearn's recent comments about Tyson Fury. He said Tyson Fury's made less defense of the heavyweight championship, right, than I have. That's what Eddie Hearn said. Eddie Hearn said, right? Eddie Hearn said that Tyson Fury has made less defenses of the heavyweight championship than I have. A question would be this, Eddie. Eddie, you have the biggest name in British boxing. You had the biggest name in British boxing, and his main rival was out of boxing for 3 years. And look at the fights you put on, Eddie. That's what someone needs to ask Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn needs to forget about title defenses. Eddie Hearn needs to think about this little 2-3 year period when he had the biggest name in UK boxing, with the heavyweight division pretty much all to himself. His biggest rival and the linear champion is out of boxing. 400 pounds, failed a drugs test. And Eddie Hearn was putting on Dominic Brazil, Eric Molina, Carlos Takam, Joseph Parker. That's where the question marks need to be asked. How much time did you lose with Anthony Joshua? How much time did you lose? And that's the reason why. And the bottom line of it is this. Someone needs to be honest and tell Anthony Joshua straight up. The reason why, right? Someone needs to say to Anthony Joshua, look, mate, the bottom line is there. Oh, my God, we've got to block some dickhead here. Hold on. Hey, Boxing World, fuck off. Thank you. Look at these idiots, man. Go fuck off. Anyway, let me say this, yeah? As far as I'm concerned, right, somebody needs to just ask Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua these questions, right? The bottom line of it is you let Tyson Fury get back to being the lineal champion of the world, right? Well, excuse me, not the lineal, but you let Tyson Fury come back to being the WBC and the Ring Magazine champion after a 3-year layoff. That should never have happened. And that's all I'm saying. That should never have happened. And that is bad management. Period. That's bad management on the behalf of Matchroom, and it's bad management on behalf of whoever advised Anthony Joshua. That situation should never have ever occurred. Period. That should never have occurred. Anthony Joshua should have been a Ring Magazine champion. He should have been a WBC champion, and he should have been the man. And it should have been Tyson Fury chasing Anthony Joshua for the title. It should never have been the other way around. And the fact that Fury was able to come in, remember, look at Fury's resume. For those people who are interested in Fury, look how quickly Fury was able to come in and take the division away from Anthony Joshua. Look at this. He fights Vladimir Klitschko in 2015. He then fights Deontay Wilder after 2 tune-up fights. Look at this. Look. He fought Sefer Seferi and Francesco Pianetta. And then he went straight into Staples Center and fought Deontay Wilder off those 2 Mickey Mouse fights. Can you fucking believe this? Anthony Joshua spent 3 years talking about fighting Wilder. Anthony Joshua spent 2 or 3 years talking about fighting Deontay Wilder. That fight never happened. Tyson Fury had 2 tune-up fights and jumped straight into the ring with him. James Brown says, afraid to show your face because you aren't a real man. What a con artist you are. I've reported your channel. What have you reported it for? Reported it for what? For hurting your feelings. For hurting your feelings. What have you reported it for? For hurting your feelings. You need to go and watch fucking CBeebies, man. Some of these dudes need to go and watch CBeebies, man. Jesus Christ. Some of these dudes need to watch CBeebies. I'm reporting your channel because you're talking about AJ's resume. Get the fuck out of here, these lame asses, man. These dudes are lame. Lame as hell, man. See how lame these dudes are? I'm reporting your channel because you're talking about AJ's resume. Report for what? Anyway, Sefer Seferi, Francesco Pianetta, then jumped straight in the ring with Deontay Wilder. Seriously, question marks need to be asked. The other thing that was brought up in the interview, let's go back to this interview. The other thing that was brought up in his interview, right, was this. Let me get this up here. Here we go. This will make you laugh, right? Anthony Joshua talks about he's a throwback fighter. Did you hear this in the interview? He goes, I'm a throwback fighter. That's what he goes. I'm a throwback fighter. And he said that, what did he say? He says something like, all this stuff, all this back and forth that these fighters are doing on Twitter is really upsetting me or something like that. He says, I don't like it. All this back and forth that these fighters are doing on Twitter. He basically said that guys like Dillian Whyte and Tyson Fury and all that, all this back and forth they're having on Twitter is stupid. And he says, I look back to the old school. I look back to the old fighters who did all the talking in the ring and they all fought each other rather than talked a lot on Twitter. So Anthony Joshua in the interview was basically saying, look, all this talking on Twitter needs to be stopped. I'm a throwback fighter. I'm not about all that talking on Twitter. I just like to go out there and fight the fighters. Now, I will give Coogan Cassius one piece of credit. Coogan Cassius did correctly call Anthony Joshua out for this because, again, Anthony Joshua is talking. He's talking absolute nonsense. And we have to be real, yeah, and honest about that in this interview. I have no idea there what's going on with... Oh, yeah, hold on. Excuse me. Let me just flip my screen back there. 1 second. There we go. I don't know what's happened there. Just give me 1 sec. Little bit of a technical issue of which I have no idea why that's happening. Just give me a sec. Why is it on the stream? Oh, I know why. Sorry. I know why. There we go. Right, let's just go back to this. Let me show you something on the screen. I'm going to get some up. So Anthony Joshua, what's he saying? He's saying that he's a throwback fighter, yeah? He's a throwback fighter, and he's not about all that Twitter talk, right? He's not about all that Twitter talk like Fury and White are. Who remembers this? This is actually funny. I mean, Anthony Joshua murdered Tyson Fury on Twitter this day. But someone has to ask Anthony Joshua, and fair play to Coogan, he did ask him. But Anthony Joshua's saying he's not about all this Twitter talk. Then what's this, Anthony? What's this? What's this? What about all these tweets that he's been sending to Tyson Fury? He said, if there was an arbitration going on, why announce to the world we are fighting? The fight was signed undisputed. Bare knuckle, you're a good kid. Don't play with me, Luke. I'll slap your bald head and you'll do nothing. Waste man. So yeah, look, that was incredibly funny. I remember that night. It was incredibly funny, yeah? So Anthony Joshua, yeah, making me laugh there earlier, but someone, yeah, to be fair to Coogan did call AJ out there, but Anthony Joshua coming on and saying he's not about all that Twitter talk, yeah? He's not about all this Twitter talk, and he's a throwback fighter. Let me ask the throwback fighter this. Yo, throwback fighter, what about this? What about this private message to Eddie Chambers? What about this? AJ says he's not about the Twitter talk. He's a throwback fighter. Well, how many throwback fighters tweet this, yeah, to other fighters on DM? Let's look at this message, yeah, that Anthony Joshua allegedly sent to Eddie Chambers. 1 second, let me remove my display name here. Let's have a look here. Anthony Joshua to Eddie Chambers. Remember, he's a throwback fighter, guys. He's a throwback fighter. He says, bitches talk. Real ones move in silence. You done too much talking. You are bum. Disgrace to the superior black race. Fuck you. There's your throwback fighter, apparently. He's a throwback fighter, you know. He's a throwback fighter who's not really into social media. Doesn't really like all the social media beef between fighters. He's above all that, is all Anthony. Anthony's above all that, isn't he? He's above all of that, isn't he? He's above all of that social media crap, isn't he, Anthony? He's just a throwback fighter who likes to fight everybody. In between messaging black fighters and calling them a disgrace to the black race. This guy's unreal, man. Listen, fair play to Coogs, yeah? Coogs did pick him up on it a little bit, right? But has he ever been asked about this in an interview? Has anybody ever asked him, look, AJ, just be real, was that you? Did you really tweet that? And do you regret tweeting that? Looking back on it, Anthony Joshua, do you regret tweeting that? Claims he's a throwback fighter. Oh, shit. Anyway, let's move on, yeah? And finally, the other thing I took away from the interview, right? And again, like I said, people will say, oh, we're going to report you because you're hating on AJ. Listen, I'm just giving you my opinion on it, yeah? I've got no problem with the guy, but there are a lot of inconsistencies, yeah, in the things that he says. This one cracked me up, right? Coogan asked him about whether he's going to be staying on Sky or going with the Zone. This bit fucking killed me, right? I tell you what, yeah? This bit shows you, right, how fucking stupid, right, the average IFLTV fan is. Because you know they're dumb enough to actually believe this shit, right? Check this out. He said that his decision to go to Sky or the Zone will be for the fans. That's what he said. He said it will be for the fans. That's what he said. He said it will be based on what the fans want. That's basically what he said. He said it'll be down to the fans. It'll be down to the fans. And he said that the decision that he was going to make here between boxing on Sky and boxing on the Zone would affect the next generation of boxers. So Anthony Joshua, with a fucking straight face, looked into a camera of Coogan Cassius and said that his decision to sign with either Sky or the Zone isn't going to be about money, right? He said he hasn't thought about it. He basically implied that it wasn't going to have anything to do with money. He was offering the most money. And he basically said it's going to be about what's best for the fans. He looked at the camera and he said that with a fucking straight face. This is the guy who's recently been doing his fights in Saudi Arabia. Well, is that good for the fans, yeah? Is that good for the fans, AJ? Having all these fights in Saudi Arabia. Was the Tyson Fury fight that you guys wanted to get done at the end of last year and have that fight done in Saudi Arabia, was that good for the British fans, AJ? Was that good for the British fans or was that bad for the British fans? But again, it's not about hating on AJ. All boxers speak, inconsistencies when I'm a massive hypocrite. I'm a huge hypocrite. And I probably contradict myself every fucking 20 seconds, right? But still, I'm amazed that he says this stuff in interviews and nobody picks it up on him. Nobody picks him up on it, Who remembers this? Hold on, let's just drag this over. Hold on. Let me type this in. You know what I'm going to bring up? I can't find it. But who remembers when Anthony Joshua had an agreement? Here we go. I've got it here. There we go. Let's talk about what's best for the fans. Because Anthony Joshua just wants what's best for the fans, right? So what about this then? Drag this over here. Oh, I can't because Opera is a piece of shit browser. All right, looks like what I have to do here. There you go. You can hear the sound of the LGBT keyboard there. Let's see if we can find it. If we can't, I'll have to tell you. Hold on. I know I can't spell, but I should be able to work it out regardless. Nearly there. No. I can't see it, but I'll find it. But who remembers boxing is coming home? Anthony Joshua signed to do his next 2 fights at Wembley. Boxing's coming home. Who remembers Anthony Joshua standing in the middle of the ring, and saying that he doesn't want to fight Deontay Wilder abroad because, quote unquote, let's keep it local. Who remembers that? Let's keep it local. Quickly before we went away to go and fight in Saudi Arabia. So, like I said before, I haven't got a problem with the dude, but I'm just being real. Lot of inconsistencies in his interview that Cougs kind of missed out on. So there you go. Those are my takeaways from it. But yeah, we basically learned nothing new about Anthony Joshua whatsoever. All right. I'll go through some of your comments now, and then we'll get going because it's important that I go through your comments. Recently, I've been not going through your comments enough. So let's go through these comments and let's see. But yeah, I just think from Coogan as a whole, it was a really, really bad job from Coogan, Really, really bad job, If Coogan right now, he's probably the Evander Holyfield of boxing interviewers at this point, isn't he? That's what I call Coogan. He's the Evander Holyfield of boxing interviewers, isn't it? It's like, it's got really sad now, hasn't it? Like, you're looking at a guy who's at least a decade past his prime. He's shot all over the place, slurring his speech, taking too many shots to the head. And, you just want to get him out of there, don't you? Or on grounds of compassion, if anything else, just want to get him out of there, Coogan's been a great servant to the sport of British boxing. But honest to God, Coogs, man, it's time now to give it up, and let somebody else do the job. Hand the job over to Take Ames. Who's that guy who recently just KO'd Eddie Hearn in a round? Who's that guy who destroyed Eddie Hearn? Is it Take Ames? Let Take Ames come on, or let some of these young brothers, let some of these young brothers come on, and show you how it's done, Cooks, because it really is time for you to call it a day. Let's have a look here. These guys are clowns. That sums AJ fans up, doesn't it? That just sums AJ fans up, doesn't it? They can't. Instead of just saying, here's where you're wrong, you know what I mean? That's how there you go. Let's have a go. Let's go through this here. Yeah, Chevron cracking. It's just unbelievable, isn't it? Joe says, Muhammad Ali sure as fuck did a lot of talking out of the ring. And yes, he didn't use Twitter. I wonder why. Yeah, well, Muhammad Ali also got in the ring and fought the best of his. Muhammad Ali, what was it? He had like that massive break, didn't he? Where he got put in jail or something, or he had to do time or something, or, for not fighting in Vietnam. And then he came back, right? And then he pretty much fought Joe Frazier either immediately or after a couple of fights. I mean, Jesus Christ. And by the way, people seem to forget, when Tyson Fury fought Deontay Wilder for the first time, some people did compare that to Muhammad Ali having a long time out of the sport and then coming back into the sport after a couple of fights to fight the man or the killer in the division, who was Joe Frazier, and he lost that fight. People did compare that at a time. Seriously. I'm not saying I did, but people in the media did draw the comparisons. All-time greats from the 70s, 80s, and 90s tended to chat loads of shit outside of the ring. Muhammad Ali was one of the worst shit talkers in history. Like, his stuff was really bad. Some of the stuff that Muhammad Ali said to Joe Frazier was just was disgusting. If you've ever seen that documentary on Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali, I forgot what it was called, but if you've ever seen that documentary on how Joe Frazier hated Muhammad Ali, like he hated his guts, yeah, for because what was it? When Ali was like in jail, when Ali was out from the sport of boxing because of what happened with the Vietnam draft and he refusing to go and fight in Vietnam. Apparently, he had money problems. Apparently, Joe Frazier lent Ali some money. And then when Ali made his comeback, he was coming back and talking about Joe Frazier's a coon. Joe Frazier's an Uncle Tom. Joe Frazier's a tool of the white man. I mean, the stuff that Muhammad Ali said about Joe Frazier was just disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And it's amazing how many people just sweep that under the carpet because it's Muhammad Ali that said that. But I think the stuff that Muhammad Ali said to Joe Frazier was outright disgusting. It was so bad, the stuff he said. To say that Joe Frazier's a tool of the white man. Let's think about the times as well. We were dealing with legitimately like a systemically racist society. Not like today. Not like today when people claim everything's racist. I'm talking about, you know, not the 70s, civil rights movements, etc. It was brutal. Black people couldn't even fucking sit down on a bus. And Muhammad Ali was out there talking about Joe Frazier being an enemy of the black person, a tool of the white man. It's just the way he treated him was disgusting. So fighters in the 70s and 80s talk bollocks. You know, if you look at how Muhammad Ali treated George Foreman as well, said very, very similar things about George Foreman. He said that George Foreman looked like a monkey and that George Foreman, I think he called him an Uncle Tom and all sorts. Really, really bad stuff on Muhammad Ali. He had a really, really vile side to him that a lot of people look to override. Let's have a Crazy D3 says that IFLTV interview was frustrating. Instead of Coogan asking Joshua more questions about Usyk, he asked him about network politics and Twitter beefs. I think that, to be honest, that interview, Anthony Joshua really, I'm sure he doesn't mind Coogan as a person, but I think Anthony Joshua lacks respect for Coogan Cassius as an interviewer. That's my opinion of it. You know, I think Anthony Joshua there's some of the stuff he was saying to him. He was saying stuff to Coogan like, you love it, don't you, really, Coogan? Let's be honest, like, you love it, don't you, really, Coogan? And what he was saying in the interview, Anthony Joshua was 100% right. What he was saying to Coogan was basically that you're not here to ask me any serious questions. You're not here to really get any insight into the camp. What you're here to do is to come in and stir shit up between me and Fury. You're going to do it he said and then she said. And then you're going to put up your little clickbait titles on YouTube and try and get as many viewers as possible. And Anthony Joshua is basically saying, yeah, I'm going to play along with you because you've got 500,000 subscribers and you're the most watched boxing channel in the UK. So in terms of promotional obligations for my next fight and making money, I'm going to play along with you. But really, you're a fucking idiot. And I think that's the way Anthony Joshua... I don't think Anthony Joshua has any respect for Coogan Cassius as an interviewer. Just an awful interview. Dave Lane saying about Anthony Joshua's tweet to Eddie Chambers, Ultra, that's AJ's evil brother who sent those tweets. He was the same one who messaged Eddie Chambers and to only shop in black people's shops. Jesus Christ, it's crazy, isn't it? They want to report me for talking about AJ's resume, but they don't want to report AJ for telling, they don't want to report Anthony Joshua's YouTube channel for telling black people not to shop in white people's shops. What can you do? What can you do with these people? It is what it is. Let's have a look. Blah, 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 blah. Let's go through some more of these questions and then we'll move on. Charlie says Coogan knows Joshua don't like him. I don't think AJ really likes Coogan. Well, he might like him, but I don't think he respects him. You know, I think Anthony Joshua knows what IFLTV is about, and he knows what Coogan's about. Coogan's about shit stirring for clicks. Coogan doesn't give a shit about the sport of boxing. Honest to God, listen, people can criticize me as much as they want. This guy had 20 minutes access to the unified heavyweight champion of the world, and he asked him pretty much nothing about his next fight. I've never seen anything like that. It was just one of the worst, most embarrassing interviews I've seen in a very, very long time. Right, let's move on to the next topic, which is Deontay Wilder. You guys want to have a quick look at this Wilder video? Before we do that, let me go to this. Oh, I've just completely... There we go. I have got it up on the screen. Right, so I'm sure you guys know this, but we'll do it anyway. Fury versus Wilder is going to be shown live on BT Sport. Now, I don't know if you remember, right, but we had Shevin on the show a while ago. Or it was either Shevin or it was... I think it was Shevin. We had Shevin on the show. And we were talking about Fury versus Wilder. And I think we were talking about would the fight happen, would the fight not happen, or something like that. right? I think this is just before Fury pulled out with coronavirus, or maybe it was after Fury pulled out with COVID, but we were discussing it. And we were saying one of the telltale signs, one of the telltale signs that Fury versus Wilder wasn't going to go ahead on that date is because there was no pay-per-view broadcaster. There was no broadcaster. That fight was like 2 weeks away, and there was no mention of any broadcaster. This time, it's a different story. BT are the broadcaster, 9th of October. I'll probably pay for this fight. Listen, let me tell you something, right? I'm thinking about paying for DAZN for a month to watch Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Usyk. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think, press 1 if you think I should buy Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Usyk on DAZN, or press 2 if you think no. Because to be honest, if I'm covering it live on here, right, that's a big if, but if I'm covering it live on here, I don't want to stream it because the streams are too unreliable. They're way too unreliable. So to be honest, if I cover that fight live, AJ versus Usyk, I'm probably going to consider buying DAZN, just for the month and just so I can watch the fight in crystal clear quality. Then again, Toby Players has DAZN. And every time Toby Players is in the chat, he's always turning around and saying stuff like it's always breaking up on him. Oh, sorry, it's on Sky. My bad. Of course, I forgot it's not on DAZN. It's on Sky Box Office. That's fine. I'll probably just buy it on pay-per-view then. That's even better then, because I know my money's not going to DAZN than Eddie Hearn. So that's probably a given. I probably will buy Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Usyk on Sky pay-per-view if I'm going to cover it live, because I just want to make sure that I've got a clear, crystal quality view of the fight with no breaks. I don't hear any talk about ultra you're behind in the stream or anything like that. So I probably am going to go out and actually buy that on pay-per-view just for working purposes. But Fury versus Wilder, I'm going to buy this fight on BT Sport Box Office. I'm interested in the fight. I think it's a 50-50 fight. We'll look at Wilder and how Wilder's been training. Let's have a look at this video of Wilder on the bag. Let's have a look at this. This is the recent video that I think that was on Malik Scott's Instagram of Deontay Wilder showing some very, very interesting technique. Interesting technique. I don't know what to make of this stuff. I don't know what. There's a lot of goodness and there's a lot of badness, right? If you look at the goodness, what I like about this is that Deontay Wilder is obviously conditioned. I would be amazed if this is not the best Deontay Wilder we ever see. I would be amazed. Like, seriously, I would be amazed if this is not the best Deontay Wilder we ever see. He might get blown out in a couple of rounds because Fury, in my opinion, is the best heavyweight in the world, period, right? So, listen, it is what it is, right? But it would amaze me if we don't see the best version of Deontay Wilder we've ever seen. I just think here, if you look at the condition that he's in, the conditioning, I mean, some of the stuff that he's doing, apparently this was taken at the end of like a 12-rounder or something. So like he did 12 solid rounds on the pads, right? And you can see some of these shots that he's throwing. You can see he's out on his feet. Like you can see stuff like this when he's walking around with his hands down. You can see the fatigue. He's you can see he's been absolutely, this isn't fresh. He's not fresh when they're showing this stuff. This isn't fresh Deontay Wilder. To me, this looks like Deontay Wilder at the end of a 12-rounder, 15-rounder, whatever, right? I just think the conditioning, the amount of work and the amount of dedication that Deontay Wilder's putting in for this fight, you can't hate on that. Like, this guy is ready. Like, there's no question about that. This guy looks to me as ready as he's ever going to be. Is he's ever going to be for Fury. So I think it's a legit fight. I think this is a legit 50-50 fight. The coordination, we'll have a look at it in a second, like the footwork and the coordination is horrible, right? The coordination and the footwork is horrible. But here's the thing, right? Deontay Wilder only needs one shot to win this fight. And that's what people need to understand about this fight, is that Deontay Wilder needs one shot. One shot lands. If he lands the one shot correctly, fight's over. That's how good he is. He lands that one shot correctly, the fight's over. So people laugh at stuff like this, right? This body work that he's doing, where he's rolling under left hooks and throwing his own counter left hooks to the body, right? So you see him there showing a bit of an inside game there against Fury. You see him rolling underneath the left hook and then returning fire, with a right hand left hook combination of his own. So there seems to be a bit of a focus on body work, and being more of a presence on the inside, Now, what you have to understand about this is, does it look uncoordinated? Yes, it looks really shitty, right? To the untrained eye, this looks really shitty. This looks really uncoordinated. The problem is he only needs to land one of these. And the thing that I like about Wilder, what Wilder's doing in these sequences is He's unpredictable. And that's all he needs to be to become heavyweight champion of the world. That's what people understand. Wilder doesn't need great technique to become heavyweight champion of the world. We've seen that in his last 30 to 35 fights. He doesn't need great footwork, right? He doesn't need, he doesn't need great technique, okay? He doesn't even need great balance, to be honest. What he needs is one shot. And the problem with Wilder, again, in his most recent fights is he's very predictable. Very, very predictable. Not setting up enough behind the jab, not feinting enough, and he's telegraphing and he's loading up on the shots. But stuff like this, yes, it looks uncoordinated. Yes, it looks ragged. Yes, it's actually quite unorthodox. I mean, some of the stuff he's doing there, looking at the ground, look, can you see there? Well, it's hard to see, but on some of these hooks, you've got to be careful. You've got to be careful when you've got your head pointing towards the floor like that. Leave yourself open for an uppercut, and you want to make sure that you've got your eyes on the target, right, at all times. I see that a lot of people who roll and slip under shots on the inside. When they roll and slip under the shots, yeah, to be credit to Wilder, you can actually see his eyes are actually on the chest, so that's fine. So it looked for a minute like he was looking down on the floor, but you've actually looked carefully. You can actually see the whites of his eyes. You can see he's got his eyes on the hands. And that's what you want to do when you're rolling shots up on the inside. See, it's a very, very common mistake for beginners to make is that when they roll shots up on the inside, they roll, but their head points to the floor and they can't see what's coming back. Very, very dangerous position, especially if someone decides to bring the uppercut up. That can be an automatic knockdown right there. So when you're rolling the shots, you want to try and keep your eyes on target as you're rolling. Try and keep as much of your eyes on the target and the torso as possible as you're rolling the shot, which is what Deontay Wilder's doing here. But this is one of these shots lands, right? If he lands a couple of body shots, but then he brings it upstairs and follows up with a hook or a right hand off this or something like that, he can become heavyweight champion of the world. It really is that simple. This kind of unorthodox, wild unpredictability may actually do him good. Because what you got to remember about Tyson Fury, and again, we'll talk about this hopefully close to the fight if we're still around by then, but Fury's defense is very, very reflex-based. Fury does a lot of this. You got to remember about Fury, and we've shown this in the past on other videos. Fury does a lot of leaning back, chin up in the air. A lot of that. When punches come Fury's way, Fury's not one, always keeping the hands high, parrying down, catching high. Fury's a lot about this. Pulling up. Let me try and get in camera, but you know what I mean. Fury's all about pulling up. Yeah? And you see him do that in a lot of fights where Wilder will throw jab 1-2 and Fury just pulls back, chin up in the air and just makes the punch missing by half a millisecond. How much longer is Fury going to get away with doing that against a puncher like Wilder? You see Steve Cunningham. Is that how he got knocked down by Steve Cunningham? Am I right? I don't want to get the video up here because I don't want to get done for copyright. But am I right in thinking that that's how Fury got done against Steve Cunningham? Where Steve Cunningham threw the overhand, was it overhand right against him? And he tried to pull up chin in the air and he got absolutely nailed and just fucking got poleaxed. Fury's got very, very bad defensive habits in the ring that a lot of people don't pick up on, right? And those defensive habits, again, they can work against somebody who's as predictable and telegraphing as Wilder. But if Wilder comes in and starts adding a little bit more, and that's why Maddox Scott has said, if you look at the caption, creativity is the key. That's what Maddox Scott's saying in the video here. You've got to be a little bit more creative with the offense instead of just, holding, because Wilder normally just holds that jab hand out like this, didn't he? He prods away with that jab hand, he prods away with that jab hand, and he doesn't do much, does he, Wilder, in his previous fights? He just prods away, and he's not doing much, is he? He's not doing much. He's just looking, isn't he? Prods it up, and he's just looking for that one right hand, right? But, the more unpredictable he is, the better he's going to be. And let me tell you, it's only going to take one shot. And something like this may actually work against Fury, believe it or not. Where if he's just unpredictable, if he's showing Fury different punches, different shots, different angles, different combinations, and then finishes, it's going to be a different story. So it's a weird one for me because the technique isn't very good. But at the second half of it, right, he's showing things that he's never shown before. And if he shows things he's never shown Fury before and they get into the ring, that's it. Because like I said before, for Wilder, it's always landing that one shot. It's all he needs, that one shot. And even things he's doing there, right, about the feint. I don't know if we can see. There's a little sequence where, but I've seen it in his videos. He's putting a lot more feints in behind the jabs. A lot more feints in behind the jab. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. A lot more feints behind the jab. I think he's live. I think he's very, very, very live. Very, very live in this fight. I think this fight is very, very close to being a 50-50 because I don't think Deontay Wilder's power has disappeared. And I think he's shown a lot of hunger and desire. And we don't know. Tyson Fury's disappeared. He hasn't been on social media for quite a while now. But Do you really think Tyson Fury has shown the same level of desire to become or to retain his championship as the desire that Deontay Wilder? Deontay Wilder is basically done 2 training camps back to back. He's basically done 2 training camps back to back. He must be in phenomenal shape. I'm expecting this to be explosive. You know, I'm expecting this fight to be explosive. I'm definitely seeing somebody hitting the floor. I think Fury might have to pick himself up in this fight. That's my opinion. And like I said before, and I want to get this on record, right, before we move on to the next topic, right? If you're Tyson Fury, right, I know the way Sugar Hill's got him fighting. Sugar Hill's now got him fighting on the front foot. Sugar Hill's got Tyson Fury fighting more like a destroyer. Sugar Hill's got Tyson Fury fighting more like a big man, on the front foot, imposing himself, stiff jabs, stiff 1-2s. By the way, let me tell you now, Deontay Wilder, the kryptonite for him is going to be the 1-2 over the top from Tyson Fury because he's still wide open for it. If you look at Wilder's left hand, he doesn't bring his left hand back down to his chin after he finishes jabbing. He was never much of a jabber anyway. But if you look at sequences like this, you know, look how low he keeps that left hand. He's going to be doing that against the bigger, taller man with the more reach. I mean, that stuff is going to be suicidal. And you see in the first fight, Fury rocked him in the first fight with numerous 1-2 combinations. And Fury basically put his lights out in the second fight with numerous 1-2 combinations over the top. So for Tyson Fury and Orthodox, the 1-2 over Wilder, the jab 1-2 over Wilder is going to be the shot. 100%. It's going to be step away from the right. Well, last time he stepped into the right hand. But whatever you say, this jab 1-2 from Fury over Wilder's left hand is going to be money every time. Look at Wilder's left hand, how low it is. Look when he's moving. Just look at it. His left hand's never by his chin. He's dropping it. Now, some of this is because, like I said, you know, again, I believe he's at the end of a 12, 15 round session. He's gassed. But just look at that left hand, how low that left hand is. He never picks it up. Can you see? He's throwing hooks with it to the body. He never picks it up. He never picks it up. Even there, you see how he's holding it out. You're holding it out and you're prodding away, but you're prodding away against a bigger, taller man with bigger reach. Fury's going to come straight over that lead hand with a 1-2. So if you're Fury, the 1-2 is your go-to. That is your go-to punch on Deontay Wilder from the outside. Is your jab, and then your 1-2 over the top. That's your go-to punch against Deontay Wilder. And that really needs to be addressed because he's not picking his hands up. And he was it with that 1-2 so many times in the second fight. But one thing I will say about it is this. If you're Tyson Fury, right, I hope his coaches have prepared him for a plan B. Plan B is if you hit the canvas, you have to go on the back foot behind the jab and win this thing on points. You know, and I hope that Fury hasn't put all his eggs into one basket. I hope Fury hasn't put all his eggs into the one basket of I'm going to go out there and I'm going to destroy Wilder and I'm going to have to beat him even quicker than I did last time. And I'm going to have to look even better than I did last time. Forget last time. Last time was lightning in a bottle. That's not going to happen again, in my opinion. Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 2 was lightning in a bottle. It's not going to happen that way again. Tyson Fury needs to prepare for a points victory. And he needs to prepare to pick himself up off the canvas. Because as far as I'm concerned, Deontay Wilder is going to be extremely, extremely dangerous as we've ever seen him. Dangerous as we have ever seen him going into this fight. Let's have a look here at some of these comments now. Dave Lane says, will there be another press conference fight week? I hope so. I hope so. I hope Wilder talks for it as well. Dave says, I've got 500 on Wilder as the odds are mad. If he keeps his head for the first 2, we are in business. We'll have to wait and see. I think he's very live. You know, guys, know my opinion. I don't know how people are writing him off in the way they're writing him off. Well, we know why. It's mainly Anthony Joshua fans who are trying to discredit the fight, aren't they? That's really what it is, isn't it? It's Anthony Joshua fans trying to pretend that Fury's fighting a bum. Wilder is legit. I'm not saying he's the best technically, but he's the most dangerous heavyweight in the heavyweight division until proven otherwise. And I just think it's going to be a hell of a fight. Let's have a look now. Blah 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 blah. Let's move on to our last bit of news, if I can find it, and then we'll call it a day. I wanted to find the news on Billy Joe Saunders saying that it's either Chris Eubank Jr. or retirement. Here we go. So it's Billy Joe Saunders. Billy Joe Saunders has declared that he is going to retire from boxing unless a Chris Eubank Jr. rematch can be agreed. The only fight I'd come back for is that fight. If the money is what I wanted, I would not bother. Sorry, if the money is what I wanted. If not, I won't bother. Well, to me, it looks like it's going to be a retirement for Billy Joe Saunders because the chances of him getting 500 quid, yeah, for a rematch with 5 million quid for a rematch with Chris Eubank Jr. coming off a beating from Canelo Alvarez is pretty much slim to null. So it looks to me like we're seeing the end of Billy Joe Saunders, right? Anybody in here think a promoter is going to pay Billy Joe Saunders $5 million to get in the ring with Chris Eubank Jr. for no world title coming off a loss to Canelo Alvarez? I can't see that because Chris Eubank Jr. is going to want his own payday as well. So $5 million, I can't see it. I can't see it at all. Looks like it's going to be a retirement for Billy Joe Saunders. And let me tell you something. It's sad, man. The way that guy's career ended, very, very sad. A sad end to a very, very promising career, isn't it, from Billy Joe? Sad end to a very, very promising career. Some fighters just can't, I won't say they can't handle a loss, but Billy Joe was never that dedicated to the sport of boxing anyway, was he? He was never that dedicated to the sport of boxing. And like I said before, if you look at that run-up of fights he took before he fought Canelo, he didn't fight the opposition that he needed to fight to anywhere near getting ready for a Canelo fight, you know? The idea that he went from Martin Murray to Canelo Alvarez is just fucking laughable. And again, you know, I don't know how the... Well, I do know, but I will question how any promoter who actually gives a shit about Billy Joe Saunders would allow him to go from fighting Martin Murray to fighting Canelo Alvarez. That was just dreadful. I mean, there was only one way that fight was going to go. There was only one way that fight was going to go. You don't go from Martin Murray to fighting the pound for pound #1 in the sport of boxing. And like I said, the matchmaking was embarrassing. The guy fought on YouTube undercards. Then he fought against Martin Murray. Then he got thrown straight in with the pound for pound #1. I mean, the levels he just climbed was ginormous. It was truly embarrassing. Got his eye socket smashed, had surgery, and that looks like it. Another fighter, and again, very, very similar to Kell Brook. Wasn't getting the fights he should have got. Ended up being thrown to the wolves, ended up being thrown to the wolves at a much higher level than he should have been thrown in at. Got his eye socket smashed, was never the same again. And now we're going to be sitting here and doing a whole fucking, of what ifs with Billy Joe's career. What ifs? You know, and there's rumors, and I've got to be careful what I say, but is there some dispute going on with Matchroom and Billy Joe over pay? Because recently, I heard that Frank Smith was saying in an interview something like, we paid Billy Joe Saunders in full. So is there some kind of allegations against Matchroom that they haven't paid Billy Joe? Apparently, and again, I could be wrong on this, but apparently he was done really dirty because apparently when Billy Joe Saunders signed the contract, right, for the Canelo Alvarez fight, he signed the contract on the basis that there was going to be no crowd or that there was going to be a very, very limited crowd, all right, due to COVID, right? And then what happened was they signed the contract for a certain amount of money and then they told him afterwards, by the way, there's going to be 20, 30, 40,000 turning up. And he got absolutely shafted. That was dreadful, you know. People don't understand. That was dreadful. Let's have a look at, let's finish off with a quick idiot comment. Meanwhile, your mate Frank had him fighting bums and empty Stevenage footy ground. That's interesting that you say that. Can I ask you a question about these Matchroom mongs? Why do you guys, quick question, why are you guys obsessed with locations of fights? You guys are more obsessed with arenas and ticket sales than actual boxing. Mainly because you don't know anything about boxing or because you can never put on a pair of boxing gloves on your life or because you've never been in a boxing ring in your life. So what you do is you go on Twitter or you go on fucking YouTube behind your shitty avatar, right? And you start talking like you know what you're talking about. But that's a quick question. First question would be, why does the arena matter? Does it matter if it's Stevenage? Does it matter if it's a car park? What does the fucking arena have to do with anything? The second thing is, I would say this, right? I would actually say that Frank Warren, on that job, I'm not saying he did a great job with other fighters, right? Some fighters like Tony Bellew, Eddie Hearn did a far better job with Tony Bellew than Frank Warren did, right? Stuff like that, no problem. You can give Eddie Hearn a W, right? But in terms of Billy Joe Saunders failed a drugs test and was stripped of his title, right? Billy Joe Saunders failed a drugs test and was stripped of his title. Frank Warren immediately got him back into a WBO title shot and made him a world champion again. And you're criticizing him for doing that. I mean, you have to be fucking stupid, right? You have to be fucking stupid, right? The man failed a drugs test and was stripped of his title. His promoter got him straight back into a world title fight and made him a world champion in a couple of fights. And you think that's bad promotion? You really need to get off the crack pipe. You don't know what you're talking about, mate. That's actually one of the best bits of promotion that I've seen in recent years. How many guys in the comment section, how many situations are you aware of where a fighter has failed a drugs test and loses his world title and then gets engineered straight back into a world title shot? How often do you hear about that happen in the sport of boxing? So what the fuck are you talking about? Lol, your rimming of Frank is elite ultra. There you go. Just these guys are just clowns. And why do they always type lol and shit? Lol. You're not even laughing. Go to a boxing gym and put some gloves on, you clowns. Get these clowns some hand wraps, man. Where are my hand wraps at? Hold on, I've got my hand wraps in here. Let me get my hand wraps out for these clowns, man. These clowns talk nonsense, man. Jesus fucking Christ, man. Stick to Twitter. Anyway, let's have a look. What do you make of Plant's chances against Canelo? I have to have a look at that fight. I can't say. I haven't had a good look at Caleb Plant. I haven't seen Caleb Plant properly in ages, so I need to have a proper look at that fight. Hopefully, I'll get a chance to cover it, so we'll have to wait and see. Let's see here. Dave Lane says, gutted the can man isn't fighting Jermaine Franklin. Jesus fucking Christ. Do you remember this? We could have been looking forward to Dillian White versus Jermaine Franklin. That fight was originally in play for today, but that fight's not happening. All I'll say about Canelo Alvarez is, what I've been saying from the get-go. Canelo Alvarez is, all I'll say is this. Canelo has great ability, but, these quote-unquote boxing fans, that choose to overlook what's obviously going on, with Canelo Alvarez, Eddie Reynoso, etc. You just, how can you ignore what's in your face? These guys are clowns. It just shows you how fucking stupid boxing is. When you've got one of the most obvious situations going on in boxing, you have got one of the most obvious situations that you've got in boxing, and you've got boxing fans, quote unquote, turning a blind eye to the obvious. Jesus fucking Christ. It's almost as bad as when Manny Pacquiao was fucking jumping up 150 weight classes and knocking everybody out. It's just that bad, isn't it? It's almost as bad as when Manny Pacquiao was jumping up 150 weight classes with all of a sudden was just smoking everybody. This is a guy who was beaten and outboxed by Eric Morales, right? Remember, Manny Pacquiao struggled, right, and lost to Eric Morales. Now, he did knock out Morales in a rematch. I think they had 3 fights, but Morales was on the slide. But you got to remember, Manny Pacquiao, and he was struggling to beat Eric Morales. And then all of a sudden, he's jumping up all these weight classes, and he's knocking out, genuine welterweights. And boxing fans are just sitting there going, oh, we have no idea what's going on here. We have no idea what's going on. They're a joke, man. They're a joke, and they're doing the same with Canelo right now. So it is what it is, isn't it? You know my opinions on Canelo Alvarez. You know my opinions on Eddie Reynoso. And by the way, those people who are claiming Eddie Reynoso as the trainer of the year. Eddie Reynoso is the trainer of the year. Oh, Jesus Christ. Gosh. Give me a break from these people, man. Give me a break. All right. Guys, any final questions? If you guys want to answer any questions, if you guys want to ask any questions before we go, ask away now. I'll give you a couple of seconds for your final questions that you want to ask. Fuck it hell. Eddie Reynoso, trainer of the year. It's like Michael Benson's always fucking blowing Canelo, isn't he? He loves Canelo. Toby, I can't be bothered to check my email. I'll check it another time. I'm not going to check it right now. I have to log into it and do all sorts. I'll check it in a bit, Toby. I'll check it in a bit. But has anybody got any other boxing questions that they want to ask? Charlie says, what time are you going to rob that post office? Do you know what? Honestly, I felt about going outside on the street in this just for a laugh. Just to see what happens. Because in the shops, they want everyone to wear masks, innit? Yeah. So I might walk in with this and say, well, hold on, it's a mask, innit? You want everyone to wear masks. So what's the problem? I thought about it. Crazy D3 says, will there be a preview prediction breakdown video of Joshua versus Usyk soon? Possibly. We'll have to wait and see. Possibly. I got in with no. So let me just tell you quickly now, right? So Spencer Fearon is not going to be coming on the show pretty much ever again. I've got to be. I don't think I'm his favorite person right now. Let's just put it that way. I don't think I'm Spencer Fearon's favorite person. I thought it was cool. I thought the way we left it before, it was cool and it was all good. But I basically said to him, look, there's no point in you coming on the show because obviously, do you know what I mean? You know, at the minute we only have a couple hundred subscribers. So it really wouldn't be worth your time. You know, we really need to be getting these live chats up to 100 concurrent viewers. Once we can start getting 100 concurrent viewers on these live chats, yeah, which is basically back to where we were before, 100 plus. Once we start getting 100 plus concurrent live views, then we can start talking about getting people on the show again, right? So yeah, but Spencer is not very happy with me at the minute. I don't think. Just the vibe I get from. I had a quick little chat with him, and it doesn't seem like he's particularly in a good mood with me. So I don't know what I did. I don't know what I did. I don't know what to say about it. I thought personally that I was very respectful to the guy. I never said a bad word about the guy after the interview or even really during the interview, to be honest, but it is what it is. And he won't be coming back on this show. That's for sure. He's welcome to. Spencer Fearon is welcome. I would love Spencer Fearon to come on this show and do the Anthony Joshua show with me. But like I said before, we don't really have the amount of concurrent lives to make it worth his while. You know, Spencer Fearon's a big boy. He should be on the bigger channels right now. Right now, this channel isn't on that level, so he doesn't really need to be on it. But even so, I don't think he would come on it. I don't think I'm his favorite person at the minute. So I don't think you'll be seeing any more of Spencer on here, which is a shame because, like I said before, I think that, to be honest, if he'd have come back on this show, I would have really put him in a position to look really, really good in that show. You know, I wouldn't try to ask him any difficult questions. Everything that was in the past would have been left in the past. And, you know, for me personally, I would have done the best to put Spencer Fearon over and show people that he does know about boxing and he does know what he's talking about. And I would have done a really, really good job to try and make Spencer Fearon look good. But, you know, that's not going to happen now. There is somebody that I want to come on this show. It's somebody who you know who this person is because he features on somebody else's channel. So there is somebody else that I've already asked if they will come on the show and they've said yes. It's somebody who I've wanted to get on the show for a long, long time, but I haven't got around to doing it. It's not a famous person. It's not a celebrity, but some of you who watch another popular channel, there's another rather popular channel that you guys know about, yeah? And he's quite a regular guest on that channel. And I've been looking to get him on for some time. Now, if we can get the concurrent views up a little bit more, get the subscribers up a little bit more, then I would like to bring him on. So let me finish off this show by telling you what I would like to do going forward. Boxing Gossip's never going to come back. I've asked him 150 times. He will never come back. This is the thing is, right? Nobody wants to deal with YouTube and nobody wants to deal with the amount of nonsense on YouTube. Do you know what I mean? Like Anthony Joshua fans saying, I'm going to report your channel because you're saying things about Anthony Joshua's resume. Nobody wants to fucking deal with that. So people don't want to make YouTube videos anymore. Same reason why Wingy and all these guys left, right? Nobody wants to do that. Somebody is very, very clever in the comment section. Someone is very, very clever in the comment section. Fuck it, I'm going to say it. It's Riku. It's Riku. I've asked Riku and he said he's going to come on. Listen, let me tell you right now, all right? I don't want to cause any problems, but I'm going to tell it how it is, right? These are the guys that I want, yeah, on this channel going forwards. I'm going to tell you how it is, right? I want to do a new show on this channel, of course. I want to do a new... Don't forget, YouTube, if you're listening, this is not my channel. This is a French channel that I upload videos to. So YouTube, if you're watching, I am not the owner of this channel, all right? So YouTube, if you're listening, I am not the owner of this channel, all right? So it's not my channel, all right? But the plan is this. I want to do a new show, and I want to call the show The Commission. I want it to be a panel. Me and a panel of some of the best guys in and around boxing talking about the state of the game and talking about fights. And we're going to call that show The Commission, believe it or not. For those of you who are aware of the commission joke that's been going around on this channel for some time, those of you who know will know what I'm talking about. But that's the plan, yeah? The plan is to do a show called The Commission, and it's going to be a round table. Watch how this idea gets stolen. But to be honest, I don't really mind if it gets stolen because nobody can do it the way I can do it anyway. So half these guys steal my ideas, but then they execute them in their garbage because, you know, like I said before, they don't have that same level of humor and it is what it is. So the commission. So I want Riku to be on this channel. The only reason why Riku ain't on it now is because we're getting 33 to 40 concurrent lives, right? And I don't want to waste Riku's time. So if we get a few more subscribers, if you push up a little bit more, I want to get me, Riku, and somebody else to do the commission, right? It might be Ingram. Depends if he's busy. It might not be. Ingram's going to be our go-to guy for doing post-fights. So the post-fight of Anthony Joshua is going to be myself, hopefully Ingram, and Shevin if Shevin's around, right? So that's going to be those. But I've got, a whole team of people. I've got a whole list of people, a whole squad, right, that I want to call up, yeah? And like I said, getting called up for this squad, it's like you get called up for the England squad, right? It's like you're representing your country. It's a big deal. You get called up for this squad, it's like getting called up for the England squad. I'm only interested in having the best of the best on there. The best of the best. I'm not interested in that kind of stuff. So Riku was an absolute must-have for me. He was an absolute must-have for me. And that's the only guy, really. Riku, Ingram from BWTM Sports, and that's really it, really. Ingram, Riku, Shevin, and that's probably it. There might be space for one more, but I can't really think of that name right now. But that's it, really. Those are the only people I want going forward, and that's what's going to happen. So to answer your question, if the channel's still around, what we might do is instead of doing the fight with Spencer, instead of doing the preview and prediction for Anthony Joshua versus Usyk with Ingram, the plan is to hopefully see if we can do it with Riku instead. All right, we're going to do it with Riku, and we'll do that. And Francis Warren doesn't want to come on. I've asked Francis Warren 150 times. He agreed once. I had it from Francis Warren. He's going to come on the show. But again, at the minute, there's no point in getting Francis on now because, like I said, 31 concurrent viewers, 200 subs. We're just not on that level yet. But we'll come back to it. I have got a few of my ties to the Warrens back now. I am in contact with a few people at Queensbury Sports again. So we'll have to see what happens in the future. All right, guys? So, and Dave is going to come on for the... Dave wants to do Wilder versus Fury. I'm not sure about Wilder versus Fury, but we're definitely getting Dave in to do Smith versus Anthony Fowler. I've promised Dave that at least. So Dave Lane is going to be called up to the squad as well. Like I said before, Dave Lane getting his first cap. He's getting his first cap. But yeah, that's what it is basically. And if you know anybody that wants to come on the show, they can always shoot me an email and ask me if they want to come on. By all means, they can always email me and ask me if they want to come on. Then they can come on, guys. All right. But yeah, big things are going on depending on what the future lies. All right. Peace out.